Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys Podcast. I'm Daniel Torres. When I'm not recording this podcast, I am the Director of Executive Search at Dwyer Partners, recruiting top talents in the consumer and retail industries, which is exactly the industries that we talk about in this podcast. Week over week, twice a week, we speak with top talent, leaders, and luminaries in the consumer goods and retail industries. We're now over 170 episodes in. So do go into our website or into your favorite podcast platform to entertain yourself and be educated with some of the industry's top voices. We have like a lot of themes actually on our website. We have a search bar wherever you want to look for example, retail media or fashion or leadership. You'll find all the related episodes to the topic. And do remember that we are part of a family of podcasts, which is headed by the CPG guys in the US. CPG in the US means FMCG in Europe. So you'll hear about everything in that side of the pond, what's going on there. They have, I don't know how many episodes, but many more than us because they started earlier. So recommend you tune into Shri and Peter over there. And yeah, it's not only me here, as you know, on one side. Please, a big round of applause to my co-host, Christina Nicolaou, joining us from Athens. How are you?
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for the round of applause. I'm doing very well. It's very hot in here, mid-July.
I'll ask Rodri to put some applause in the editing later. But yeah, we are in full heat wave, aren't we now?
Yes, we are. I was looking at some stat and like East Europe is something like 14 degrees above the historical average, something crazy.
And meanwhile, up in the UK, they're all protesting because they barely reached 20 degrees. So to all our UK listeners, we envy you for once. Imagine. So today, actually, Christina, I'm quite excited because we're going to be talking about two of the hottest topics in the industry right now that we've covered extensively on the podcast. On one side, we have e-commerce and then the B2B side, which is really evolving, no?
Yes, and especially the eB2B side of things. Exactly. So we're really excited about today's guest and today's topic. And it's one of the things that keeps on popping up, but we haven't really spent sufficient time discussing.
Exactly. Because there's a lot of conversation on retail media, e-commerce, etc. But what happens with B2B? That space of FMCG, which is sometimes overlooked. So we bring you a true expert with one of the top FMCG companies, Mars. It's Patricia Amaro, who's their global eB2B senior director. Hey, Patricia, how are you? Good to see you.
Hi, Danielle, Christina. It's a pleasure to be here. And well, actually, I have to tell you that I'm super happy with the heat wave. I never complain about heat waves. After living for almost 2 years in London, I never complain about the heat. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. And definitely B2B is one of the top topics that we need to discuss and unlock in the e-commerce space.
And probably compared to your native Brazil, this heat wave seems like a bit of a joke, no?
Yeah, no, it's different. I like to say that I live in Spain now, very close to you, in Barcelona.
Indeed.
And I have to say that I suffer more from the heat here than in Brazil. I don't know why.
Well, it's a different experience, and perhaps it's a moving from London to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, and your experience in London, it was only a part of a very long and impressive career journey that you've had. Can you walk us a little bit through your path and how you came to become the pioneer you are now in the digital space?
Yeah, well, I think I was always the pioneer. It just took me a while to really accept it, to really accept that I was the person that would constantly feel misfit, constantly feel we need to change. So I think when I look back to my life, not just my career, I was always this person. So I started my career in retail marketing and digital marketing, of course, as you can imagine, it was the early stages of e-commerce in Brazil. In 2012, I worked in e-commerce companies and retail companies. And then in 2012, I was invited to join Unilever to start e-commerce. And I remember that all my friends would tell me, are you crazy? You are not going to survive 3 days working in such a company. But I got passionate about the opportunity of starting something new. And I said, if I do believe that everything would be sold in e-commerce, so actually Unilever is a great place to start, because it would, and it did, allowed me to have a broad understanding about e-commerce to pharmacies, pure players, groceries, brick and mortar. So it really gave me these opportunities. So I worked in Unilever Brazil for 7 years, and I managed to do when I joined, e-commerce was 0.3% of the business, and I left with e-commerce being 34% of the business. And why? Because I created the first eB2B platform, right? I was coming from e-commerce companies, so I saw an opportunity of, well, what if we apply what I know, but we use it to distribute our products, like partnering with distributors and improving the way we get to small stores, and we'll get more to these details. So I worked there 7 years, then I moved to Spain 3 years as a digital transformation director, including all the digital capabilities, digital marketing, e-commerce, eB2B, open innovation, data strategy. And then in 21, I was invited to join Reckitt as the global general manager for eB2B. So the first time in a global role, and the first time focused on eB2B and the go-to-market digitalization. That's the period that I lived in London. It was a great experience, like doing it in a different company, different culture. But I missed the sun, and I had the opportunity to join Mars in a global role to once again, start eB2B and set up the strategy on this channel.
Great. And actually, what does your role at Mars actually mean? And maybe you can tell us a bit about this, because you did eB2B constantly in your career. If you could tell us a bit like what eB2B actually means.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because everyone talks about eB2B, but because it's too new, it's not clear yet, So the easy way to understand it is when we apply e-commerce capabilities, technology, best practices to sell to other business. So it could be hyper fragmented, it could be mom and pop, it could be convenience, it could be fragmented channels overall, or it could be medium and big customers. So the same way that we have consumers buying online, this digitization, it happened in the distribution as well. So it happened everywhere. So if you think about the evolution of digital in our society, I like to think about a kind of maturity, So the first thing companies realized was, the consumer is digital, so we need to do digital marketing, right? They are digital. And then, oh my God, but they buy online. And then we have e-commerce because consumers buy online. So eB2B is when you understand that the shopper, the buyer, the one who is buying to their own business to replenish their stock in a big or in a small company, they are also doing it using digital platforms. So that's the same evolution, So it's almost like the same that happened with e-com, but addressing a different part of the industry.
Yeah. And what does your role mean at Mars thanks for giving the context, by the way, around that.
My role is to set up the global strategy and to understand how can we, Mars, win in this channel, So what does it mean? What are the roles that we need to play? What are the participation models? And how can the market establish a winning solution? It is extremely important, especially to unlock growth on fragmented channels. And by being snacks company, at least the piece that I am, extremely important. Because we are an impulse category. So if you are not there, you are not being bought, So for us, it's extremely strategic that we find ways to drive efficiency and to distribute our products better with the right execution in every type of store, including the smaller, tiniest ones.
So the way that you approach the B2B and the way that you see it is more on a tool to help also expand distribution and the availability you have in a wider, let's say, landscape? Or is it also about, does it help create perhaps a relationship with the customer, educate them? What is the role that it plays for you?
It's by establishing one of the big benefits of eB2B is by establishing this close proximity with the final customer. That's exactly when you drive better distribution. So I think so think about something. We have overall around 40% of our sales. CPG companies usually have around globally 40% sales on fragmented channels. And if we go to emerging markets, it would go from 50 to 70, 75% of sales, right? But the thing is, according to Accenture data, companies usually reach 10 to 15% of these stores only. Why? Because it's super complex. It is expensive, right? So in many markets, you will have at least one intermediary, so at least distributors. But in many markets, you have distributors, sub-distributors, wholesalers. So if it's a long journey to get to the high fragmented store. So what happens is the industry, the CPG company, it's very limited on what can you do and how can you influence. If I know the consumer wants to buy more healthy products or whatever trend that I identify in consumers, I can influence them in customers or in direct channels like modern trade or every channel that I sell directly. But every time you think about fragmented, we lose traction, So eB2B allows us to have this direct contact with them, even in many cases, partnering with distributors and wholesalers. It's not about disintermediating. It's about just finding a new way of doing business and getting this proximity with the customer, knowing what they want, offering for them like the possibility to buy 24/7 with the right price. So you just tell them give them the possibility to buy what they need 24/7 with the best price, and you have access to this. So you establish this relationship, and this is what drives the better distribution.
Yeah, and we've spoken recently as well of how important like traditional trade is for FMCGs in terms of like currently the revenue that comes from traditional trade is huge, but in terms of like what regions are growing, in the regions that are growing in the world, traditional trade is like 80% of the market, right? So really like having those strong relationships and being close to that customer makes you be closer to the consumer ultimately, no?
Yeah, exactly. At the end, it's what we want. That's what we want. We want our brands and products to be available for the consumer, but we need to understand that fragmented channels are fundamental to that, right? This is where the growth will come from. And at the same time, these is this channel that delivers the biggest challenges for companies to work on. So all the companies that I worked with, like Unilever, Reckitt, or now Mars, we face similar challenges, so we don't have too much visibility about what goes on there, what do they need, and we have challenges on price, cost of serving, so while companies are struggling to find more efficiency, you are saying, okay, but you need to grow from the most expensive channel. So that's why eB2B is one of the reasons why eB2B is so strategic for us.
So it's kind of like a double thing, right? On one hand, it helps drive those efficiencies that companies are looking for, but then you also create a tool and a capability in the company that helps you leverage the opportunities that were already untapped using those new efficiencies.
Yeah. If we think about the value drivers that eB2B can give us, is basically, yes, you can do it as a growth engine, like being able to reach new stores, increase your conversion by improving your basket size or increasing your basket size, and also the frequency of purchase, because you give the store the possibility to buy 24/7. But you also drive more profitability at the moment that you have the possibility of offer higher profitability items, and you have these access to them, and you can use personalization with data, for example. And you also can drive sales teams efficiency if you digitize your sales force together, if you bring some some merchandising tools like order displays, for example, or deliver content together with sales. So you are driving efficiency on your sales. So I think, to put it simple, it's about reach conversion. It's about profitability increase. It's about driving efficiency. And it's also about surviving, because digitization is here. So it's estimated that business will lose 20% in the long run if they don't become part of this digitization. Mm-hmm. So beyond all these benefits, it's not an option, right? Digital is not an option for us.
No, yeah, totally. And there's a lot of like eB2B models developing like kind of at the same time, from what we know. You'll know better than us, like from single brand or company platforms, multi-company partnerships based on channel needs, or even like across channels, marketplaces, and of course, cash and carries becoming more digitalized. What is the role of which, and as much as you can, and in your opinion, how should FMCG companies develop their strategies along these lines?
Yeah,
it's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's exactly because of these many models. It also, and because it's new, because there are many models, it makes it a bit more challenging, for companies to understand how to operate, because it's new. So you need to. So basically, the way I like to put it is, you have CPG-owned platforms, right? And you have two ways that mainly they will do it. One is the ones that look at opening to marketplace and somehow monetizing on that. The ones who are doing that are the pioneers. So Unilever, I started this back then in 2015. So imagine that the Compra Unilever, that was the beginning of Compra Agora, that now is the biggest eB2B player on the segment.
And it started with Unilever.
It started with Unilever in 2016. So we went live in 2016.
And guess who was in Unilever in 2016?
Yeah, it was. So I was the architect and the creator of it. While imagine you.
And that's the biggest eB2B platform now?
In Latin America, yes.
Wow.
So you have Bees. Bees is bigger. But if you think about if you compare like the penetration that ABI has versus what Unilever has, which although it's an amazing company in Latin America, so ABI has 90% of distribution. So it was quite different the way that they were born. But if you exclude beverages, it's the biggest, right, in Latin America. And you may imagine how difficult it was when I started in 2015 saying, I think we can build a platform. We didn't call it eB2B. There was no name. It was like, I think we can build a eB2B platform and actually increase our sales to the distribution and get more visibility, all the benefits that I spoke to. I had the privilege of nobody believing on that. Because when nobody believes, you have freedom, right? So basically everyone said to me, except I had a peer, like I was the DCOM director and she was the channel director. So beyond we two, nobody would properly believe on that, but they would say, okay, fine, you want to test it, go ahead. So that's the birth of Compra Agora, that now is an amazing project. So you have the CPG companies, and usually ABI or Unilever, because they pioneered, and because I was like part of the discussion of why to have other brands, and it was basically because if I have 200,000 stores enrolled in my platform, why don't I make money on that, And I also want to offer more than Unilever. So that was the beginning, and we started to bring other companies to sell together. So we have CPG-owned platforms with multi-products approach, offering one-stop shop for the retailers. You have also CPG-owned platforms with the objective of improving what they do. So this is what we did with Reckitt, for example, or Heineken, for example, like mainly selling. So when in Reckitt, we created the B2B platform to sell more Reckitt products and to economically improve our business. But it was about selling Reckitt. We did a very strategic partnership with Bayerdorf, but all the time, and I think this partnership was unique because all the time our objective was make money on selling Reckitt while we offered Bayerdorf the possibility to come and make money on selling more Bayerdorf. So the monetization would always come from selling more Reckitt. And you have, CPG owned single items, CPG owned multi products. You have the marketplaces that could be owned by a CPG or not. You have the pure players, a lot of companies, like especially startups, mainly dominant in Asia. In India, there are many of them. Companies that were either a startup or navigating in other areas, they saw the opportunity and created e-commerce platforms to reach the fragmented trade. We have the tech giants, Amazon Business, Alibaba. So everyone is saying, oh my God, if I sell to B2B, I can get scale on my business. And we have a very important model that is not always considered, but I would say more than 50% of eB2B sales comes from this model, is what I like to call omni eB2B. And these are the wholesalers, the distributors, the offline retailers that created their e-commerce platform, right? So in Europe, we estimate that more than 60% of our sales is already on wholesalers' website. It's difficult to get this number because it's not yet globally properly reported as eB2B, because the sales are together with the wholesalers and distributors. So selling is together. So it's more difficult to get visibility. But if you talk to people in the market, you will find like many wholesalers that already have their e-commerce platform that is already offering the sales have the possibility to sell without being in store. So this is eB2B. So these would be the models that eB2B includes. And my recommendation of the right strategy to win in this space is, one is, of course, you need to understand what do you need more. So from the value drivers that I mentioned, what is more important for you, at least in the short term? So do I want to use eB2B to drive efficiency? Do I want to use eB2B to increase my distribution on some specific items on the long tail? Do I want to use eB2B to reach new stores? So first is be clear on what's your main objective. And second is set up a strategy that considers more than one model. So it's a mosaic of eB2B. It's not about, I will build my own eB2B so I don't do anything with what exists. So at least we should have, or every company should have a proper strategy to win on omni eB2B, right? As we do in brick and mortars, it's the same. And of course, we need to understand how to properly manage pure players, the existing marketplaces, if it makes sense or not, and definitely explore the possibility of building their own. But I think it's a mosaic of eB2B model and not just one model.
I love the term mosaic. It links like very right on the way that I try to visualize this in my head. And indeed, Patricia, when you started in 2015, 2016, doing all that work with Unilever, it seems like it was a completely different world. And then things started popping up everywhere, let's say, and we've ended up in this very rich mosaic that you just described. So as you see all those trends, how do you see kind of like the vision of what the future of eB2B is?
I think, I have a bias for eB2B.
Okay.
I am passionate about it because I've seen like in more than one company how beneficial and how strategical it is for the CPG industry. I see that I think 100% of our sales, of CPG sales, will be on any kind of eB2B strategy because this is part of the digitization. I think one thing that we need to be clear is that eB2B is not about taking sales rep off. It's not about having people. It's about including them, right? It's about, in the past, still today, but I personally think it's something more from the past. We would say, we need Salesforce automation, right? My friends from sales are maybe want to kill me, but I think Salesforce automation, it is something that is from the past. Why? Because I don't see any reason why today you would develop a tech solution for the sales rep to use and not offering the possibility to sell without being in store, right? So at the moment that I will develop a software, an app, or a device, whatever it is, for the sales rep to use, why don't I give the sales rep the possibility to send a WhatsApp for the retailer and click here and buy now? And if I do this, this is eB2B, because it's when the store comes and buy alone. So eB2B doesn't mean not having human interaction. We need it, right? The majority, let's say 90% of the customers, we need this human interaction. They are fundamental, especially when we go to the fragmented channels. But the way we do it, it should be really using data, using analytics, like optimizing with AI. There's a lot of tools in AI today that really can leverage the way we do it. If we understand eB2B as this, which this was my experience and what we saw, what we see in all the most successful eB2B projects, 100% of our sales would be there. Because why not? Why not?
Yeah. And one question that I have, like, there's been a big boom in Europe in the last couple of years around retail media, which is not linked to traditional B2B activities, because it's not in like small stores. It's more like the big supermarket chains, but it is related to what you're saying, like digitalization and really like linking the store to online activity. Have you seen any impact of retail media on your B2B space, or not really yet?
Not ready. I think, again, I think in order to understand, I think we need to understand, it would be good to understand the differences between the consumer and the buyer, right? Even when we are talking about the small fragmented, the owner of a mom and pop store, right? They are different, they have different visions. So if I am a consumer and I want, first, I am already buying online. So today, everybody is familiar with buying online. And even when I go with a clear mission, like I want to do my grocery online, or I am looking for this, I am more open to receive or be impacted by media and change my mind with media. So it's my relation with the platform, usually. Mm-hmm. If you translate to the B2B space and talking more about fragmented channels, so the owner of the store or the buyer from a small supermarket, they have many more restrictions. So, and they are super focused on what we call, in sales, we usually call it order opener, right? So they will say, I need to buy sneakers. I cannot be without sneakers in my convenience store. So I need to find, and now my mission is I need to find sneakers in a better price, and I'll buy whatever my cash allows me to do now. If you go to the small stores, they would do this they can source in marketplace, they can go to wholesalers, they can go to informal markets, but they will have the box of sneakers available in that store. So, and they do that. And they also have like usually a sales rep with whom they talk to, a sales rep from the wholesalers, distributors that visit their stores, let's say monthly or every 3 weeks, depending on the store. So if you want to educate this person and be attractive to them, you need to first establish the right commercial strategy, having the right price, have the right availability, and being able to deliver in the frequency that they need. And second, you need to bring the sales people as protagonists, right? These are let's say, the first fundamental things that you need to do to bring and to influence the source, because you need to educate them. So that's the main difference from consumers. The eB2B customers, they are not so educated yet. Mm. They are in a personal life, but they don't have the habit of doing this on eB2B. So there will be a moment where retail media will be more efficient. Once they buy it, so if you go to the more established platforms like Bees or Unilever, yes, retail media is important for them because they have the buyer educated already and go into the platform. But the most of companies, I think, are in another stage.
Yeah.
And Patricia, just to pick up on what you were saying, I think this is super interesting. Also on how you have the right commercial offering, right? The right price, package, bundle, whatever the shop owner has on the mission to buy, the buyer. Do you currently work with specific go-to markets for the eB2B channel, or is generally in line with what you would have generally through the wholesalers? Do you see any differentiations like RGM stuff, different packaging, or doing, I don't know, like near bundles because you can do this online?
We don't do it in Mars yet, but because we are starting the journey, right?
Okay.
So again, I think but in order to be more interested for the audience, I think depends on like the maturity and your needs, So so every time you do B2B, you need to understand that it's part of the go-to-market transformation. So you cannot do this as something apart from your go-to-market strategy. You cannot. You need to understand that this is a channel. Are you going to bring distributors or not? How do you treat it? So you need to start from the same, right? You shouldn't have, if you say you need this kind of promotion or you are going to run a promotion on the wholesalers, you need to have this on B2B as well, right? So this is, let's say, the starting point. The starting point is
basics.
Basics is do the same, and understand how to integrate eB2B as a channel, right? Understanding the role and the commercial strategy that you want to put in place. Once you get more mature, like in platforms, in companies that I work at where eB2B got more mature, and once you know more how to manage, then you can find and you can build new go-to-markets. Because at the moment, imagine that today, for the majority of companies, fragmented channels is just one block of things that I don't know too much. And by the way, that it's super expensive. I don't have, So the basics will allow you to say, oh my God, now, customers are different. So personalization. So more than growing, at the same time that you are growing, you will also start to get visibility about something that you didn't. So in Unilever, for example, back then in 2017, probably, I remember the moment that we were looking at the conversion channel and we had 100% of sales being done by distributors, right? 100%. We were owning the platform, but we were selling through distributors. And I remember back in 2017, when we looked at the conversion funnel and we realized that 60% of the orders were being lost. And we were like, what's happening? Why is it, right? And then we went to explore it, and it was 60% of orders were blocked by credit, right? So distributors, they were very happy with the credit that they were offering, right? So they were just basically limiting or restricting the credit to 60% of orders because they didn't want to take risk. So when we saw this, we came up with the idea, and we did it, of offering credit in the platform, right? So we didn't go to the distributor to say, oh, you need to take higher risks. Of course not. No, we cannot do that. So what we did is we hired a company to offer credit in the platform. So the retailer, they would be able to, in case they didn't have credit from the distributor, they would still be able to buy using the credit from this third part. And the distributor would still sell it without having the risk. Mm-hmm. So this is just one example of insights that we had in the platform that helped us to improve the total, because this credit restriction wasn't just only B2B. It was, of course, all the indirect channel, but we didn't have visibility so far.
Yeah. And we're talking here about the challenge that you have when working with distributors, et cetera, like the trade so far. But also you've been deploying these solutions as at a regional level and now at a global level. What are the main challenges to actually implement that in the company at a local level, and also because you need also some degree of cross-functional collaboration?
Yeah, well, you need 100% of cross-functional collaboration, because I think this is not something unique for B2B. I think the world is more and more digital, and it's more and more difficult to establish, this is decom, this is sales, this is marketing. So that's where I think we struggle as a company when we try to fit things in just one box, and actually it doesn't fit in one box. So we spend a lot of time, usually in many companies, all companies that I've worked with, we spend a lot of time discussing who wants what, who does what, and how do we report the numbers, which are actually not the key elements, but it's because it's difficult for the company to move if we don't have this clarity. So I think I would say that although we have challenges in, for example, channel conflicts, or what is the right commercial strategy, or how do you educate retailers and how do you bring them, how do you manage, for example, channel conflicts with sales reps, how do you engage them? So I think there are many challenges that are unique to the eB2B world, but I would say that 90% of the challenges are internal. Is the difficulties or the lack of adaptability that we have in big companies, in CPGs. And this is not Mars. This is like every company that has worked.
Yeah.
Struggle.
Well, it's also like the dynamic between global and local that you always have, no?
Yeah. It's all intern. I would say 90% of the challenges that I had personally on being the person who is building this new channel, 90% of the challenges are not like from the eB2B world per se. Is about how do we unlock fund, how do we collaborate, how do we move, how do we get the approvals, so.
And there are more and more solutions that are coming, like for this challenge, like the internal ones, or also on how you measure things, how you can offer credit via a platform. I'm wondering, Patricia, as things are moving faster, how do you personally keep up with all the new, the latest new news, let's say, of what is available for you to use?
Yeah, I think this is ambitious. I think we are not up to date. I think it's impossible. Like, it's crazy. So what I do, personally, what I do is I organize my agenda in a way that I have some space, that I need to have some space to think. And usually I do this on Friday mornings. This is what works best for me. And this means I can use this time to read something, or I can use this time to connect with external people. So I think this is how I do it. Of course, we go to events and there are more formal ways of doing it. But the way I bring it to my daily basics is like blocking, like saving some time in my agenda, where I call it greenfield. And it's like just for me to have some time to think and to get new perspectives. Most of the time I do this by talking to people, or like reading or listening to podcasts like yours. That's why I heard many of your podcasts already. And regarding how do I do this within the teams, I think I'm a deeper believer that people make business, right? So what I mean is, it's always about people. If you ask me, is this project going to be successful or not? Is this the right strategy of eB2B or not? I will go back to you with another question: is who is going to run it, right? Because it's about people. All the transformation and innovation, they come from internal energy. Like entrepreneurs, they are moved by their internal passion. There's no way of doing it differently. So what I do, and I always recommend in companies that I work with, is that we hold the space for these people to exist in companies. So I always attract, and I make sure that I have the game changers in my team. I hold the space for it. So I try as much as possible to create incentives in the company for people to do it, for people to take risks, So that's what I do. So I focus on right people. I empower people to do it, and personally, I save some time.
Excellent. Yeah, no, because also you're a senior director, right? So it can't be you that's evaluating every single solution to a problem or tech solution or whatever, right? So it's a good reminder that really what makes you successful as you grow senior is not what you know, but what your team knows, no? So, and it's probably more about asking the right questions and having a vision. So you've had an amazing journey to where you are now, Patricia, and you've made it to the best city in the world, Barcelona. No, but jokes apart, no, it's been really interesting. It's like starting in the internet side, transitioning into FMCG at a director level from a completely different industry, which is a rare thing, and even more rare to be successful in FMCG after that transition. So kudos to you. And then starting the platform in Latin America, setting up global eB2B companies that are pretty well known, such as Reckitt and now Mars. I mean, but if you went back to like when you started working and with everything that you've learned, you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
Well, it would be really invest some time on yourself, on your self-development, know your superpowers, and use it as a magic toolbox, you know. So every time you are frustrated or you find difficulties, you just go to your toolbox and see what can you do it and how can you like activate your superpowers. Don't be aware of your gaps, but find strategies to mitigate it, but don't try to develop them too much. Like I would say, focus on what you are good. And because these superpowers, they are the map to put you in the flow and make you thrive professionally, while the gaps or the weakness, they can really drain your energy. So that would be my recommendations. Like, don't try to be good in everything. Identify your superpowers and work on that.
This was Patricia Amaro, Global eB2B Senior Director at Mars. Christina, what are your key takeaways from this conversation?
First of all, a lot of things to unpack behind eB2B specifically, which is a really good thing that we did. We need to be talking about that side of things more, although it's not as fancy as consumer stuff, right?
No, but B2B, yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's really complex and difficult to understand. It's not as easy as like your typical Carrefour, Walmart key accounts, no?
But I love how Patricia put it, which was pretty similar. This is the way of applying e-commerce capabilities to other parts of a business, essentially. Because yes, indeed, everyone is all hyped about, our consumers are digitized, let's advertise them. Oh, they are shopping, actually, our shoppers are online, let's go digital with them. And then there are the buyers from the outlet side, and they are online as well, because there is a person behind every order.
Yeah, I think that this is like the closest in terms of capability building that FMCG is getting to direct to consumer in many ways. So from that point of view, it's very interesting already.
It is. And I loved all the focus that she had behind fragmented trade, overall traditional trade, right? Because this is a really big part of the FMCG industry and consumption. And I love how she put it that the value drivers for eB2B are, one, it can be a growth engine because then you can unlock more spaces that you were not present in before. And two, it can help drive profitability because you have better control over your mix and the offers that you're giving. And three, it can also help drive efficiencies. Ultimately, most people look only at three right now, and while there is a lot of opportunity to expand on the other two.
And also, I mean, the thing is, it's somebody that has so much credibility, Patricia, because like the fact that she started or she was one of the driving forces behind what's now Compra Agora, which is like biggest eB2B platform in Latin America. I mean, just from that one, we could have talked a lot, no? And it's interesting as well how she did the eB2B platform for Reckitt. And then she broke down like all the marketplaces, startups in Asia, all the tech giants that have got into it. I thought that part was really fascinating, and we could be talking about that for a couple of hours more.
It can definitely have its own podcast. And I have to say, I loved how she brought into the conversation different solutions to problems that we don't know exist, right? So like bringing up the giving credit to the outlet so that they can buy, and then enabling the distributors to even sell more without the high risk. These are stuff that indeed might not only apply to eB2B, but rather to overall your business. But eB2B can give you the access to the information and getting closer to the final outlet in a way that you can never do because you would have to have like 1,000-fold the number of business developers on the field.
Yeah, exactly. And then she talked about like we asked her about with all this mess, if you like, what can FMCGs do? And she talked about one, like what's more important to you, at least in the short term, like efficiency, distribution, and then set up a strategy that has more than one model. And it's the term that you like, Christina, which is the mosaic, right?
Yes, the mosaic was a really good one. And indeed, you cannot just say that I will only do this because this is what I understand. I believe that this is the reason behind choosing one thing. It's what can I explain more easily? What do people understand more? Let's go after that now. Indeed, you need to be very clear on your objective. But in order to reach it, you will never be able to only utilize one. So I think that what Patricia mentioned, that the omni eB2B part or the digitization of wholesalers is something that it's a capability that every big FMCG needs to have.
Exactly. Fantastic, Christina. Well, wishing you a fantastic weekend because we're recording this on a Friday. Enjoy the beach or wherever you go. And I think you're up for a holiday soon, aren't you?
Yes, I am. So I will enjoy the packing this weekend. Very gladly will do that. And the next episode we'll be recording will be from Naxos Island.
Nice. Excellent. Well, enjoy that. I'll be holding the guard here in the office in Barcelona. And thanks to all our audience, be you in holiday or be you working during the summer. I hope you enjoyed this episode and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.